Thank you all for joining this webinar. Today I'll be talking about the metabolic triangle, 3 secrets to prevent and beat diabetes, and not just diabetes, pretty much any lifestyle condition. So that's what we'll be covering. And as we get started, a quick introduction. My name is Vivek. You can see my story, not too different: corporate life, startup life, an angel investor, etc. But the core reason for why I'm doing this presentation is the journey that I've been on over the last 2-3 years. So I'm 47 now. Around when I was 33 or 34, I got diagnosed as being diabetic. And for around 10-12 years, it was taking pills, assuming it's in control, waiting for a couple of years, dose would increase, etc. And when I had an exit from my previous startup, I had the time, and obviously the whole intent was, how do I fix my state of health? And what started as a personal journey for me, and obviously managed to successfully turn around diabetes after a decade plus of having it, ended up becoming the next journey, which is now into its third year, called Evolve Life. And there are hundreds of people whose health we've transformed, and where diabetes, be it PCOS, be it cardiovascular risk, etc., we managed to completely cure/reverse. And it is based on the insights from this journey that I will kind of talk about today's session. So if you were to take a look, what if I told you that you could already be on a path towards various lifestyle conditions and not be aware about it, right? What if I told you that we can predict if you will get diabetes or hypertension, which is BP, or cardiovascular risk, Alzheimer's, or any of these lifestyle conditions, right? What if, you have any of these and you're taking your medicines, but what if they're harming you, right? And, most of these, what if I tell you that we can cure or reverse all these conditions, right? Be it diabetes, and we can get the medicines to go away, right? What if I tell you that the advice we're getting from experts, while it is well intended, is actually causing some of the problems that we might have? And what if I said, diabetes, BP, etc., have different symptoms, but are these really different? What if they're kind of similar, right? Also, the medicines, if they were working and helping our health, why do our doses keep increasing over time? Despite following all the advice and ensuring you have your medicines, why does my state of health actually deteriorate instead of improving, right? Our understanding of this is wrong, our advice and the way approach to solving this is wrong, and our treatments are wrong. The direction our health is going in is south, slowly but surely. Well, would you believe me? Would you still listen to me? Because let me say upfront, most of the above is exactly what I'll be speaking about as we go through today's session, right? So, if we do a quick walk back in time, let's say 80, 100, 120 years, about a century back, there were no industrial seed oils. People consumed what nature offered us, right? There was no packaged processed foods. People made food from real natural ingredients. There were no refined food products. The machinery needed for these just hadn't yet been invented and didn't exist, right? There were no chemically tainted, fruits and vegetables and other produce. The pesticides, fertilizers, etc., weren't around. Animals ate natural stuff, and the animals we eat were not factory farmed or given enzymes, etc. They were in their natural habitat, right? The humans had to put in a lot of physical work. There were no automobiles, elevators, many things that technology has done for us, and there were no easy solutions as well. So life wasn't easy, but it definitely was healthy. Prevalence of any kind of a lifestyle condition was minimal, right? It was more of 1 in 20, 1 in 30 adults may have had a semblance of some kind of a lifestyle condition, right? However, if you look at some of the numbers of today, right, you look at cardiovascular disease, significant increase, right? You look at diabetes, I think we call the diabetes capital. And the problem is not just about India, it's pretty much across the globe, with about a billion of the 7 billion people having one lifestyle condition or the other, right? And it is quickly hurtling towards a 2 billion of the 7 billion, and that's supposed to happen over the next decade and a half, right? In terms of obesity or extra weight, pretty much every one of us packs those extra pounds. Younger women getting impacted with PCOS, 1 in 5, right? High blood pressure or hypertension, significant component of the adult population. And you know what? This is true for our families, friends, colleagues, and for millions of us globally. The incidence is steadily growing, and unfortunately, it's impacting people at younger and younger ages. Right? The current solutions are focused on symptoms and are not really solving the underlying root cause. And most of the conventional wisdom that we apply, unfortunately, is not helping. And we continue to embrace bad choices, not because we know they're bad, because we're told that they're the right choices to make. And yet, the size of the epidemic of non-communicable disease or lifestyle conditions is growing at an unprecedented rate. This obviously needn't be the case. So with that as a preamble and setting the stage, let me dive into what I call the metabolic triangle and what are the 3 secrets to prevent and beat diabetes and other lifestyle conditions. And that's what will be the focus of the session. So let's start by understanding how does the progression of a journey with any of these lifestyle conditions, how does it unfold, right? And if you were to take a look, we start our lives in general, fit, healthy, having fun, time passes by, and somewhere in our middle age, probably there is some kind of a diagnosis of a lifestyle disease. There is some kind of drug-induced improvement. Then there may be some complications that might arise. It could be another, change in the medicines we are taking, or maybe some kind of a surgical intervention, and we are fine, and life goes on, right? This is what we're made to believe. However, the reality, is a little different. The reality is, yes, we start our lives well, our bodies are working well, metabolism is working fine, etc. But much sooner than we know, some of the underlying root causes start to, come into play. And much before we even know it, what I'm going to call the metabolic triangle and talk about starts to unravel, right? And we don't know about this. And then there are secondary, outcomes that start to manifest because of the unraveling of the metabolic triangle, based on which over a period of time, typically around 8, 10, 12 years, there is a diagnosis of some kind of a lifestyle condition. And obviously there are implications of that. There is pain, suffering, inconvenience, loss of productivity, etc. And then once that happens, then there is a onset of what I call a tertiary disease, right, which is the complications that arrives out of the base condition. And eventually we also lose lifespan in the process. And secondly, from around D1, you also lose health span, which is for the rest of the time, what component are we living in a healthy way? So this is what happens in reality, and this just doesn't need to be the case, right? So, when I say metabolic triangle, what does it mean, right? One, it means metabolic balance, right? Hormonal balance, the body working well, the entire process of functioning, working fine, right? That's one. And for that to happen, it means good cellular health. Each of our cells is doing the job that it's supposed to do without any unintended consequences, etc. And third, our body's defense mechanisms are all working fine, right? And ensuring that if there are invaders into our body, be it of the organic kind or pathogens, which is bacteria or viruses, be it toxins that enter us because of our environment and that will harm us. But if our body's army, navy, air force is working well, very easily we are able to thwart any attempts of these invaders from harming our health. And that's the way it's supposed to work, right? But what really happens, I'll talk about it. Before we do that, there's a couple of these, interactive quizzes that I have weaved in. You will get some options on the screen. If we believe we know our diabetes, we know people that have diabetes. Let's try and take a shot at this. You should get the options on the screen soon. Diabetes is because insulin is less in our body. What do we believe, right? Is it true or is it false? Let's take a quick moment. You can just choose it, and then we will proceed with our session. So please do go ahead, take a shot at what you believe are the reasons when it comes to insulin. And insulin is a key hormone. I'm going to talk about insulin as we go a little forward. And as you're filling it up, please do note, given that this is about health, given that this is about there will be a bit of biology, so be prepared for Saturday morning biology class as well. I'll try to keep it slightly less technical. Now, okay, so we've got the responses in. 2/3 of us believe that it is false, and 1/3 of us believe that it is true. Super. And we will understand the answer as we go along. All right. So thanks for participating in that. So moving forward, essentially the three triangles were, three vertices of the triangle, the metabolic triangle, were metabolic balance, were cellular health, and body immunity. A quick overview on each of this, right? In the metabolic balance, and it becomes an imbalance in many of these, and it happens much before any other indication of bad health comes into play. One of the key things is imbalanced insulin, right? The imbalance is not on the lower side, it is on the higher side, right? So 2/3, I think, broadly got it right, whereas 1/3, I think understood it wrong. We end up having more insulin than we need, but the efficiency and productivity of that insulin starts going down, right? And the way to think about it is insulin toxicity. Insulin is a key hormone that plays various roles, but a couple of roles important to understand is it is what enables entry of glucose into every cell. Higher the level of insulin, our body goes into storing energy for the future. And given that all of you are followers and listeners of Capital Mind, trying to put a financial angle to this, the way to think about it is, glucose is currency that we keep in our savings account to fund our day-to-day transactions, whereas fat is our investment, our FD. It is glucose translated to fat that gets stored for that rainy day when we may not have energy for us to kind of dip into and power our bodies, right? And higher the insulin, there is more storage of energy as fat in our bodies, right? Why do these happen? It is high levels of insulin, and if it's consistently high and over a period of time, we get into the efficiency of our insulin going down and becoming what's called insulin resistant, right? And there are drivers which are multiple, and I'll do a deep dive into this. And the solution is, how do we get to low levels of insulin consistently over a period of time? Similarly, if you were to look at cellular health, super important, but one of the key things that leads to an imbalance in the health of our cells, which impacts the functioning of our mitochondria, which I don't know if you've heard about or talked about beyond high school biology. Super important. And if it starts not working well, is a problem. Think of inflammation as rusting within the body. It is the various tissues and the innermost layer of our arteries called the endothelium, all of which start getting scarred and getting impacted. And there are two concepts. One is what's called acute inflammation. This is not bad. This is a necessary process. If we fall down, have a wound, etc., this is what beckons the defense and medical fleet from within the body to come, ensure there's no infection and that the healing process starts. However, chronic inflammation on the other hand, not good at all. This is, a state of inflammation without a clear underlying reason and consistently being there. This starts damaging our arteries and tissues, our DNA starts to get damaged and so on. And again, Multiple triggers lead to chronic inflammation, and if they're happening consistently, is when it ends up resulting in a state of chronic inflammation. Typically, we do not know that our body is in a state of chronic inflammation, right? Thirdly, the defense mechanism of the body, the role of, we know it as immunity, but it's not just immunity. The role of it is to safeguard the body, heal wounds, fight different kinds of threats, understand about the intruders, and ensure if it happens again, that memory exists and helps us, defeat them again. And obviously, if this is weaker, it just increases our susceptibility to disease, right? There's multiple lines of defense. One is what we call the entire immunity family. These include what are called your macrophages and natural killer cells, T cells, B cells, etc. In addition, what don't form a component of immunity, but are defense mechanisms of the body, and very important ones at that, would be stem cells, would be the sanctity of our DNA, would be what we call our gut microbiome, will be a process called angiogenesis, etc. And typically, we see this being lower as well in a lot of people much before any kind of condition is diagnosed, right? So, this is a lot of depth. I will be doing a deep dive into insulin for today. And I think the immunity and inflammation, we will leave it at this and understand that they're a problem. So talking about insulin, like I said, very important, produced in the pancreas of our body. The two important functions I'd like for us to remember: entry of glucose, which is fuel that enters into our engine, which is the cell, for production of energy. So that is one thing that happens. Second, higher the level of insulin, our body stores energy for the future, and it's typically stored as fat, right? These are the two things I'd like you to remember. Now, there are certain choices that we make over a period of time, right? One is, let's say there's a lot of carbohydrate in the food that we eat. Let's please understand every carbohydrate in the process of digestion, as it gets broken down, becomes glucose as it enters the body. And because we need insulin to deposit glucose into every cell, higher the amount of glucose, higher the amount of insulin gets produced by the body. Protein, very important for our muscle health and for general health and well-being. But that being said, it's also about the balance. You don't need excess protein. And excess protein ends up leading to increasing the levels of insulin in our body. And if there are some kind of unhealthy fats, trans fats, and what I call PUFAs, etc., these again end up increasing the amount of insulin we end up having. Fructose is a dangerous enemy, not the one that comes from fruit, because based on the amount of fruit we have, what we get is typically 8-10 grams a day. However, there's a lot of hidden fructose in processed food that comes in bottles and packets, etc. Typically we end up consuming anywhere between 100 to 150 grams of fructose a day without even knowing it. And fructose has a, no impact on your glucose levels. So you may not see the difference, but it impacts your liver significantly. It only gets metabolized in the liver and leads to the liver becoming fatty, and then it becomes insulin resistant. So the liver will ask the body to produce more insulin for it to do its job. Similarly, every time we eat, it's an insulin event, because each time we eat, based on what we eat, there's a quantum of insulin that gets released. And the more times we eat, and when I say eat, it's not just a big meal, it could be a glass of milk, it could be a fruit. All of these, rev up our metabolism and lead to release of insulin, right? And so more times we eat, higher the insulin and more the number of insulin events. And, while there are other reasons, the last thing I want to talk about is stress. And I think in the modern day and age, almost all of us are exposed to different kinds of stressors, right? And, we may believe stress is only psychological. In reality, while it is psychological and leads to the release of a hormone called cortisol, there is a cascade of events that happens. Higher levels of cortisol result in higher levels of insulin, right? So it has a physiological impact. Now, it could be a combination of these, for each one of us. But as a net takeaway, if this leads to a high level of insulin consistently, then what ends up happening is a condition called as hyperinsulinemia. Essentially, our body seems to have a high level of insulin all the time. And when this happens, it eventually leads to a condition called insulin resistance, which means the productivity and efficiency of our body's insulin goes down. And to do the same job, our body now makes more and more insulin, right? So the way to think about it is it becomes a vicious a cycle. We make a few choices that leads to a higher level of insulin consistently. The higher level of insulin leads to the efficiency and productivity of our insulin going down, because of which the body produces even more insulin, because of which the insulin resistance becomes worse and the demands on production of insulin increase, right? So this is the way we, it starts with a bunch of triggers and based on choices we make, but then ends up becoming a vicious cycle where the levels of our insulin resistance become bigger and bigger over a period of time, right? Which just means that our body is producing higher and higher levels of insulin to do the same job. Now, this is how you would kind of visualize it. Think of it as a healthy cell. You eat, glucose comes in. Based on that, insulin gets produced in the pancreas. Both of them go in our blood. The insulin is the key that opens the door to every cell, and glucose gets deposited, energy gets produced, and we go about doing what we do, right? All our activities. That's the way it's supposed to be. However, when we talk about insulin resistance, what ends up happening is the number of keys needed to open the cell keep increasing, and it stops responding to lesser level of insulin. However, our glucose levels are okay, HbA1c is okay. There's no external sign of this. There's no, in the typical diagnostics we do, this doesn't show up, right? However, the inefficiency is increasing and our insulin levels are increasing, but the outcome is being done. But, the far extreme of it is where our body cannot produce any more insulin. It's maxed on its capacity to produce insulin. And what that does is it takes some of this glucose and we start converting that into fat and we start to put on weight. And over a period of time, at a extreme condition, what I would call is uncontrolled diabetes, the cells just don't respond. They don't open. And this time the reverse happens. The glucose starts collecting in your blood and your blood sugar levels start going up, whereas you actually start losing weight because the cells start using the saved fat for metabolism because glucose is not available to them, right? So these are, at various times, the way the response is. And so we understood so far, we make choices, the level of insulin increases, that leads to the efficiency and productivity of insulin coming down, what we call insulin resistance, and and that starts to manifest. So if you were to look at that insulin resistance, what happens because of that? The first set of things is the inflammation that I talked about. So chronic inflammation starts to set in. There's a process called oxidative stress. There is a process called glycation, where molecules start being surrounded by a layer of glucose, and actually the effectiveness of those molecules starts to go down. Our level of triglycerides start to move up. And there's something called as beta amyloid plaque. It starts forming in the arteries of our brain. But in reality, when all of this is happening, we have no clue. If we do our annual health checkup, we will get a clean check. We'll say all is well, right? And then what happens? Slowly, we start putting on weight, right? There are hormonal imbalances, and think of hormonal imbalances as the communication system of the body. And obviously, if a body's communication system, like with anything, goes for a toss, there is a breakdown. Same way, the other communication system is electrical, which is nervous, but the hormonal system is the chemical communication system. One organ is telling something else, another part of the body do this, but the other body can't, other part cannot listen and doesn't respond. And that's the impact of hormonal imbalances. Our liver starts to kind of get fatty. There are imbalances of cholesterol that start to creep in. And to an extent, some plaque formation that starts to happen within our arteries. The innermost layer of our artery is supposed to be super flexible to accommodate, various volumes of blood. However, the endothelium, there's a dysfunction that starts, it starts losing the flexibility and the elasticity, etc. In many people, we don't even know that any of these are happening, right? We believe it's part of life. Hey, I'm adding a few pounds, but otherwise you do your health checkup, again, a clean check, right? And then is when it crosses a particular threshold, right, of some diagnostic test. And that's when you could get diagnosed as, hey, you know what, you're pre-diabetic or you're entering into diabetes territory. Hey, you have fatty liver disease. I can see that in your ultrasound. If you're a woman, your periods start to get impacted, and there is a diagnosis of PCOS, right? Your blood pressure starts to rise, your cardiovascular markers start to get into dangerous territory, etc. It is typically here that there is a diagnosis that we have a problem. Please note, from the inner circle, right, which is where the entire process started, to the yellow circle, which is where we got diagnosed, we're talking about 10, 12, 15 years having elapsed, right? In reality, our metabolism has been slowly deteriorating. However, we don't know about it. We believe all is well till a lagging indicator, a threshold is crossed, and that is when we get diagnosed. And let's assume we don't necessarily take care, and even if we do, the progression is slower, but eventually we're heading towards various bad end state outcomes. That it could be your kidney failure and needing to go and get dialysis done, etc. It is your eyes starting to lose sight. It is the nerve endings at the extremities of your body stopping to function because of neuropathy. It could be any kind of a heart event, etc., etc. So essentially, bad outcomes start to show beyond the yellow circle as time passes, slowly delayed if we are on medicine, but otherwise in an accelerated way. Right? So that's essentially the way this whole thing unravels. And just to kind of summarize, if you look at all of these lifestyle conditions, right, be it fatty liver or high BP and diabetes, etc., we would believe that all of them are different diseases, different symptoms, different specialists to see, different solutions to solve them, etc. But if you kind of peel that onion, you realize that there are quite a few things that are common to all of them. One is what's called visceral fat, which is fat in and around your abdominal organs, which is the most dangerous, which starts impacting the functioning of the organs, right? And there are those hormonal imbalances common to every one of them. Typically, you end up putting on excess weight. There are a few unlucky people where they don't put on the excess weight, but they're fat from the inside, what's called TOFI, thin on the outside and fat on the inside. Biological garbage starts to collect within the body, right? And this would be weak cells, dead cells. Typically, these need to be recycled. There's a process called autophagy around cellular maintenance that needs to work, but it doesn't work as well. And when that happens, these weak cells, dead cells, instead of getting recycled and new cells being created, start to collect within the body. It's like garbage collecting. Similarly, the beta amyloid that I talked about starts to collect in the arteries of a brain, etc. Now, these increase our susceptibility to disease and also accelerate our rate of aging, right? Now, these are pretty much common to every condition that we see on top. And then if you kind of peel the onion further, you realize the metabolic triangle that I talked about, essentially your metabolic balance is broken and you have imbalanced insulin and other hormones, right? Your cellular health is not good, right? It's impaired and you have an increased state of chronic inflammation, right? Your body's immunity and defense mechanisms have become weaker and it's impaired, and your defense mechanism, it's very easy for you to get disease, right? So this is common to every one of the conditions that you see on top, right? Now, if you were to take a look, the solutions can be on the periphery. And if they are on the periphery, you're only going after the symptom, which is why it is a symptomatic approach. It's only managing or controlling. Why is it that when we take medicines for these, it never goes down? Typically, the dose only goes up. The reason is because the underlying problem has not been solved, right? And that is the reason over time, the medicine doses only increase, and more than one of these come in because they're all from the same underlying root cause. If you were to really, really solve for it, what we may call a cure or reversal, etc., the only way to do it is to focus on the underlying root cause. And only then will what we see on top, the middle layer and the top layer, actually go away, right? So as I'm going through this, should you have any questions, please do look at the Q&A button and type those questions in there. There's also, I think, the chat section. You can put it in there, and towards the end, I'll take any questions you have typed in or anything that you type later and cover it as we come to the end of the session. So, this is the summary of what's working. And if we really need to get rid of the problems, our focus should be to focus on the root cause and ensure that we solve for it. Right? So, the root cause, like I said, is the metabolic triangle going awry, right? It is our, metabolic balance. It is our cellular health. It is our body's immunity. As they get impacted is when the problems start to show up over a period of time. So if we have to solve for it, we have to ensure that it's these, metabolic imbalances that we solve for, right? And that's the underlying root cause. Medicines do not solve for these. They act at a symptomatic level. For example, in the case of diabetes, we may end up with higher level of glucose. The medicines we eat will take that glucose away from the blood, put it elsewhere, right? And ensure that there's no glucose toxicity that is visible in the blood, but they're not solving for the underlying root cause, which is why, unlike an infection or maybe COVID, I take medicine, take it for 2 weeks. Hopefully I become okay and I don't need to take medicines anymore. Whereas in the case of any of these lifestyle conditions, that's not happening. So the underlying condition is becoming worse, right? Whereas symptomatically you believe that I got it, right? Which is not the case. And let's also understand, specifically around diabetes, it is glucose toxicity, yes, but more importantly, it is insulin toxicity. And medicines, etc., focus on the glucose toxicity, not necessarily on the insulin toxicity. And the other point being, the insulin toxicity is not just diabetes. It is a part of pretty much all the lifestyle conditions, right? So the traditional view on all of this is that, these are chronic and progressive. And what does it mean? It means if you get it, it won't go away. And two, over time, it keeps getting worse. And the reason this is the prevailing view is because all the solutions typically are focused on the symptoms and not on the underlying root cause. If you really want to solve it, all these conditions can be reversed if you focus on getting your underlying root cause to work well, your metabolic triangle to be safe, right? If you can ensure that the sensitivity of the insulin is restored, if you can ensure that your chronic inflammation goes away, if you can ensure that you strengthen your body's defense mechanism and immunity, then all of this goes away, and that's when it is curable/reversible. So quick summary, right? One is the villain is what I call the three-eyed monster, which is the negative side of our metabolic triangle, which is the imbalanced insulin, the increased inflammation, and the impaired immunity. The sidekick is a symptomatic approach. This is what I call a mess, which is medicines for life, typically eating less, counting calories, taking a single vector approach, saying, hey, I'm going to stop having sugar, or I'm going to walk and exercise the hell out of my disease, etc. Or in some cases, it could be proactive or reactive surgery. Please note that none of this are solving the problem, but also note that any of the sidekick approaches, which is a mess, better than allowing your condition without any of these, because these at least slow down the progression, right? They may not solve the underlying root cause, but ensure that the complications get delayed. It's like applying a brake on your journey, right? But if you really want to do a U-turn, right, the hero will be a root cause solution, which is how do you use food as medicine? And the way to think about it, we may have a BMW or a Mercedes or any of these automobiles, but if we put in kerosene, how do we expect the engine to work well? And in a way, that's exactly what's happening. The first two, which is food as medicine and aligning to the circadian rhythm of the body, which is when do we do what activities? The simpler way to think about it is what do you eat and when do you eat? This moves the needle on your health around 70%. So 70% of the impact comes from ensuring you fix your nutrition and fix when you give your body that nutrition. Exercise and fitness, not necessarily from becoming a Salman Khan or a Hrithik Roshan, but more from ensuring your metabolism is working well. 10-15% is its impact. Similarly, sleep, not just about rest and rejuvenation, but more about ensuring your cellular maintenance or autophagy works well. 10-15% impact. Stress or having a harmonious mind, important, again, not just psychological, but has a physiological impact, but the impact 10-15%. Ideally, you should engage each of these vectors together to ensure that you fix yourself, as fast as you possibly can. All right. So that's the quick takeaway from this, and this applies to pretty much all the lifestyle conditions that we took a look at. So we'll do a couple of quizzes now, and then I'll talk about the solution. What can you do, right? How can you ensure that if you have any of these problems, how do you focus on fixing it, right? So, you'll see it come up on the screen. One, eating saturated fat, ghee, butter, coconut oil, etc. It's unhealthy. What do you guys believe? Let's take a quick, shot. It should come up on your screen for you to make a choice. Super. So let's take a look. How do the numbers stack up for our belief on, ghee, butter, etc.? So 84% say it's false. 16% say it's true. Okay. Let's throw up a quick quiz number 3 as well. Being fit is the same as being healthy. What do we believe? Right? We know so many people who are fit. Are they healthy? Do we know so many healthy people? Are they necessarily fit? Is being healthy, being fit the same? Please do make a choice. Simple, fastest finger first, true or false. Okay, let's see what the numbers are throwing up. Again, false. So 91% believe it's false and 9% say it's close. So 16 and 9. So very simply, let me state, and answer it, and I'll kind of cover it as part of the solution. One, saturated fats, not bad. Current, advice from a typical cardiologist, please avoid, ghee and butter and coconut oil, and please use what are called industrial seed oils. In my mind, the yellow box with the red heart is the ad that tells me what is the healthiest oil, etc. Not true. I think, it is the use of traditional high quality saturated fat that actually benefits the body. Saturated fat doesn't get oxidized. It is typically unsaturated, fats that get oxidized because they have a vulnerable bond, and the oxidized fat is what is dangerous for us, right? Similarly, is being fit same as being healthy? Absolutely not. And unfortunately, from the actor that we lost yesterday, young and fit, and yet, we saw that, there was a cardiac event to other people, that be it, Dada or Saurav Ganguly, be it Remo Fernandez, who's is a dancer, and yet, had a cardiac event, be it the people heading SAP or the India head of BMW, all of these were super fit people, right? And yet they were not healthy because unfortunately they did fall prey or had to deal with, a serious impact to their health. Clearly, being fit and being healthy are not the same. You would ideally like to be healthy and fit, and to a large extent they go together, but we will be lulled into a false sense of, complacency if we believe that, hey, I'm fit, I can't be unhealthy. Not true, right? Hopefully true, but please don't assume just because you're fit, you're healthy, is one point I'd like you to take away. And on the other hand, there are a few lucky people, whose health is good, but the level of fitness may be low. Fitness does help, but that being said, enjoy the good health that you have. These are two separate things, right? And you would want to be healthy and fit. So, moving towards the solution, like I said, we want to improve our metabolic health. We want to improve our sensitivity of our insulin, right? We want to reduce inflammation. We want to reduce, essentially, improve our cellular health, right? And we want to strengthen our immunity as opposed to ensuring that we have weak defense mechanism. And the levers, like I said, was fresh. So if you take a look at food, I know it's a lot of text, but I'll quickly run through some of these. One, you need to ensure you have the right macronutrition, and think of macronutrition as being the fuel, right? Be it the petrol or the diesel or the electricity that fuels your automobile. And, our cell luckily can make energy from all of these, right? So getting it right. The right way to do it is going low on the carbohydrate, having adequate protein, but not extra protein, and ensuring that you have the right amount of healthy fat, primarily saturated. Ensure you have adequate fiber, right? Reducing inflammation, right? Ensuring, again, saturated fat is anti-inflammatory. Seed oils or PUFA is pro-inflammatory. It promotes inflammation, right? Ensuring that you have adequate micronutrition. Lot of us and lot of, the keto world and so on and so forth focus too much on the macronutrition, but that's like focusing on the fuel, which is right. But you can't lose focus from the coolant and the lubricant and the inflation in your tires, because your car will anyway not work well if these are not in place. Similarly, for various biochemical processes in our bodies to work well, we need adequate amount of micronutrition, typically ignored, right? Vitamins and minerals, which are rich in antioxidants, ensuring that you don't put chemicals and toxins in through processed food and chemically tainted choices. And similarly, I think to strengthen your immunity, it is a combination of these, but ensuring that pretty much, 1/3 the periodic table, you get enough of it, because minerals play a super important role in good health. Ensuring you get adequate and optimum levels of multiple vitamins. Your gut health is super important. You need to ensure there's enough prebiotic and probiotic food that goes in for that. And like I said, avoid any kind of artificial sweeteners, which also means avoid sugar and various kinds of sugar as well, without a doubt. On top of that, ensure that you don't have artificial sweeteners. That doesn't help your gut health. On the rhythm, try to, there is this whole concept of intermittent fasting, extended fasting. They are helpful. Try to eat fewer times in a day, 3 times at a at a maximum, maybe 2 times, and don't snack. Ensure you eat good, healthy meals, but minimize the number of times you eat. Try to see if you can eat in a 10 to 12-hour window, and over a period of time, you could reduce it further. But it definitely helps. What helps is the period when you're not eating, because that's when your metabolism kind of goes down and your body's maintenance starts. Whereas the higher the window where you eat, one is the higher level of insulin events, but also it does lead to essentially the maintenance of the body's cellular health not happening well. And the other thing is, ensure your digestion is done before you go to bed. So see if you can pull in your dinner, maybe to a 7 or 8, and give it a 3 to 4 hours before you to go to bed, to ensure that your dinner is done, digestion is done, and autophagy can kick in when you actually go to bed. Exercise, 2 perspectives. From a metabolism perspective, what really helps, because of the high dense mitochondria that exists and the way glucose usage happens by what are called the slow twitch fibers. And I won't go into detail, but the way to engage them is a continuous walk of 45 plus minutes, brisk walk. Make it a habit. Make it like what you do every day, like your brushing and eating, etc. Goes a long way from your metabolic health. If you are able to find more time, ensure you do the mix of, HIIT, it could be weights, it could be yoga, it could be which increases your strength, increases your muscle mass, gives you the flexibility. All of them will help. But I would say if you have 1 hour, I'd rather you walk, do the brisk walk, than do all the exercise. If you're able to take 2 hours, please do both of these, right, every day. And building muscle does help. But over exercising and overdoing protein supplements is something that I would ask you to be wary of. From a sleep perspective, make sure you get 7 hours of good sleep, right? It is when we sleep that cellular regeneration happens, the metabolites that are deposited in our brain get cleansed. And the other condition for this to happen is to ensure that your digestion is done. Because if you're sleeping and your digestion is still going on, some of these maintenance activities don't get kick-started, right? And again, harmonious mind. If you can identify the root cause for your stress, change it, right? And ensure that that trigger for stress goes away. In some cases, it may not be easy to change. Are you then able to counterbalance that stress with, maybe meditation that helps a lot? There are various ways to de-stress. Make sure you figure out what is yours and counterbalance any sorts of stress with that. Simple thing as breathing deeply, right? Every hour, it takes a few seconds. If you do it, goes a long way. So this is the fresh solution. This is the only way currently that you can actually change the way your body functions and ensure you cure or reverse any of the lifestyle conditions like diabetes, right? So that's broadly what I wanted to cover. Very quickly, I'll try to give you an introduction of what it is that we at Livont Life do, right? Essentially, life's journey would have made us a version of the car on the left. How do we make it the nice shiny car with the engines working well, as close to what came out of the conveyor belt? Those are the kind of outcomes we work on. So humanizing it, double digit, HbA1c, triple digit weight, maybe multiple medication. How do we make it all right? How do we get your HbA1c to a normal level? How do we ensure that your weight goes down, right? How do we ensure that there's no medication you're on? And this is across all lifestyle conditions, right? So those are the kind of journeys that we script. And when you look at it, people say, hey, how is that? Right? Is this a Brahmastra? How come all of these problems get fixed? But the reality is, I hope you've taken away at the underlying core of good health is the metabolic triangle, right? And once that starts to unravel is when that is the root cause. And if you fix the root cause, all the manifestations of the root cause go away. You've got clients that are on cholesterol medication, BP medication, diabetes medication, and heavy. And when they finish it, all their medicines go away and each of these conditions become better. And they wonder, hey, this is magic, but it isn't, because the underlying root cause for all of this is the same. All we are doing is trying to fix that and fix your and strengthen your metabolic triangle. Right? And the way we do it, like I said, it takes 10, 12, 15 years. Your pendulum has swung from a state of good health towards a state of bad health. We put all the force together in a 3 to 6 month period to kind of force your pendulum back towards the state of good health. And once you get there, you can get back to normal life. But obviously, the solution to push it is a little different, and that's what you'll need to do. But the other way I think about it is, another 30, 40 years to live it well and live it on our terms. Can't we take 3 months, 6 months to push the pendulum back towards the state of good health and undo some of the damage that has happened over the last 10, 15 years, right? So, our solution includes all of these components that we talked about. We provide and deliver therapeutic food. We've come up with our own curated set of exercise plus yoga plus meditation that helps with the mind and body fitness. We look at diagnostics very differently. Like I said, most of the current way it's done is what I call lagging indicator. It tells you have a problem after you have a problem. You take an HbA1c, it crosses a threshold, hey, you're getting into pre-diabetic or diabetic territory, etc., or your fasting blood sugar and so on. But what we look is under the hood into the engine to figure out, are you headed there? Right? Because like with any journey that you want to come back from, the sooner you know that you're going to a destination which you don't want to go to, the faster it is to come back. And I think our predictive diagnostic helps with that. All the experts needed, be it doctors or nutritionists and physios, etc. So it's a holistic solution we put together. Secondly, we ensured it's easy and convenient, right? So there's people, it gets delivered, people that work with you, motivate you through the process. There's an app where you can manage all your daily transactions. The delivery of the food is to anywhere in the city, etc. But in the back end, there is deep science. There is a couple of, all the understanding we have on the diagnostics. We built a diagnostic AI system. There's a lot of early warning signs that we are able to see, etc. Secondly, while what changes the body is 100+ rules that we apply in the food, it is math that is changing the way our body works. But what you get is the art. So there's a lot of focus on culinary design. How do we make it tasty? How do we make it varietyful? How do we not make it super restrictive? And yet the math remains the same and it's changing the way your body works. And on the precision nutrition piece, we only use organic ingredients. We don't use any processed food. Our kitchen is, around 5x the size of a regular kitchen because we make everything from scratch. And like I said, the math being enforced by an AI system. And the entire focus is how do we make it easy and hence guarantee outcomes, and it just becomes easy to sustain that discipline, right? So, like I said, multiple rules that go in. What is your sodium to potassium ratio, calcium to magnesium ratio, etc. 100 plus such rules that get enforced. But what comes out it is art. It looks and feels and tastes. It is different. This is not the best food you can order on Swiggy, but this is food that is easy to eat, but it is changing the way our body works, right? And similarly, on the exercise, we put together the best of exercise, yoga, meditation. We've divided it into levels where even, for example, my 75-year-old mom who may not be super fit is able to do it easily. So there's a beginner's level, an intermediate level, and an advanced level. And various times in the day, it's a live instructor, live class, small class where you get individual attention. This is how these look like. And again, on the assessment, like I said, completely different view to how a diagnostic assessment should be done, looking at not just state of health as of now, but what is the state of health into the future, right? And we look at it differently. We compute what's called as a health index. That's the traditional way of looking at health. A protection index, which is more indicative of the future of your health. And that is something that you don't get to see in a typical assessment, but that is what will tell you, should you act now? Obviously, if your health is bad, you already know that protection index is also low. But for some people, your health index may be close to 100. But there may be the unraveling of the metabolic triangle that's happening, and that you get to know through the protection index. The only levers available to us to fix either of these is the lifestyle index. We assess you across nutrition and stress and fitness, etc. And that's what we score. That is what you need to change. Only by changing that will your protection index become better and your health index better. So, that's a summary. It's holistic solutions, all vectors needed to fix, but the focus is on doing it for you, making it easy and convenient, because that's when we believe it's sustainable. Otherwise, you won't get the benefits, as opposed to advice we give, which becomes a DIY kind of a approach. So, that's the what we have. If you're unhealthy or healthy, please think about doing the Health 360-degree assessment, which is the predictive diagnostic assessment that I talked about. If you have a problem, think about our Health Restore program, where you reverse that lifestyle condition easily. And if you're healthy, one of the things to look at is gut and immunity. We have programs that help you strengthen it, which include the right nutrition, etc. And let's say you addressed your health, then you need to improve. And on an ongoing basis, there's healthy food subscriptions, there are fitness subscriptions, there's annual health monitoring subscriptions, this healthy food store that we've set up, right, which is a curated set of products that we make and we provide that helps you drive to better health. So that's a website called retail.liveoutlife.com, right? So these are the ways that you can engage. For people on this call, one, I'd like to thank Capital Mind for helping us set this up. There is a coupon code called Capital Body. You can apply that on our website for any product. I would suggest two things you look at. If you have a problem, look at what we call our Health Restore Kickstarter, which in a way has all the components. It's a 10-day program. You get the food, you do the exercise, you do the diagnostic assessment, you do the expert consultation. You will get a sense. This is not the movie, right? This is a trailer. You will see benefits. You'll see weight going down. You'll see yourself feeling better. You'll see medication going down in the 10 days. But can I do it, right? Does it work well for me? And based on that, you can decide to watch the movie, which could be, depending on your age and the extent of your condition, anywhere in around the 12-week kind of a time frame. The other thing is obviously the Health 360-degree assessment. That is something I would suggest that you take a look at. So that's what I wanted to cover. I think I took 8-10 minutes more than I planned to. But thank you for listening, Ian. I hope you understood the importance of the metabolic triangle and maintaining it for good health. The fact that it starts unraveling much sooner than you believe, and it's better to know before as opposed to later. And if you already have a problem, all is not lost. You can still do the U-turn. It'll just be a little tougher and take a little more time, but do that. Live the rest of your life well without having to worry. And I keep telling Deepak, I think the two important things for somebody is, protecting and growing one's wealth and health. And I think Capital Mind does a phenomenal job on the wealth side. And, I believe we can be your partner on the health side. So Deepak, any words of advice as we get into the Q&A session or feedback?
Hey, I don't know if you can see me, but I mean, I have been listening to Vivek on this from this thing. In fact, I think the biology of it is fabulous and fascinating, all very counterintuitive. Much like, investing, a lot of things in the health, as in the wealth business, is counterintuitive. It is largely discipline. It's largely things like don't eat little bits for the full day. People tell you to eat smaller meals for many times a day. It's so counterintuitive that actually that's not beneficial, because it's doing the exact wrong thing in your body, which you should be avoiding. And as we grow older, I think one of our we've seen something really unfortunate happen yesterday with famous Kannada film actor who's super fit. I mean, as much as I have actually had the honor of seeing him play squash and being in the gym with him, but as much as that said, things can be happening very silently inside your body. And the wealth side of things is easy. I think Vivek and I go back to a time when we probably had a lot of health and no wealth. And now we're both at times where we kind of face the impact of having some wealth, but not quite as much health as we did. You could eat anything, you could be anything. We go back 30 years. And I've seen this, evolution personally also, that health is important because of what happened to a generation above us. And now people in our generation itself. So I'm 46, and I think all of us want to get to a point where we can actually enjoy our wealth when we've created it, and it shouldn't be that you can't because you're not healthy enough. Now, I can say one thing: the food is tasty, the exercise is good, and the advice actually helps you live a lifestyle without having to feel miserable about it. It is not like, oh, don't eat at all, or eat, I don't know, go and grow some potatoes in your garden and only eat those. Actually, you shouldn't eat potatoes at all, but I mean, or very less potatoes, I suppose. But don't. It's not like that kind of stuff. But it's actually very, very tasty stuff, and I've had it. Also, I'll say one more thing that I mean, just to end it, not to let the questions in. What matters to us sometimes? It's just those 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes to get our health together. Sometimes it's very scary because you have to context switch and move to a point where you're saying, "Acha, what do I do now? What do I eat today? What do I?" So you want something that reduces that stress in your life. And the same with wealth. We see this all the time. We see this in, what do I invest today? What do I buy today? Or should I be doing this, or should I do? As the lesser of those decisions you create yourself making over a time, because you're following a disciplined process, the more happy you will be in general. And in the end, we all optimize for happiness, although we like to live our lives thinking we're optimizing for wealth. So, sorry, I'll switch over. Oh, okay, I don't know which side of the camera. Then, yes. Okay. So great. Thanks. I'll let you take the questions, Vivek. Thanks for a fantastic seminar. And I think also, look at the capital body code. You'll get a discount. I'll let Vivek take the finer aspects of where all this goes. I hope he goes all over India. Because and right now I think scaling is this is important, because we're seeing this happen not just in Bangalore but everywhere else in India. But Vivek, go ahead, please take the rest of the questions as well. Thanks so much.
Super. Thanks, Deepak. Thanks for this opportunity. And let me take a look at the quick questions, and others, if you have questions, do put them in. So how do we check our metabolic cell immunity efficiency? I think the SMART 360-degree assessment, go to our website, which is www.livealtlife.com. So that's one way, right? And it's a way to figure out, and we take a look, like I said, and that should be useful. There's somebody that talks about a normal range of BP. The BP is around 140/90, not taking any medicine, etc. So like I said, all these are lagging indicators. My suggestion, see what the underlying state of your metabolic triangle is. Get the Smart 360 done, because BP may be what it is, but if the underlying metabolism is not working well, it's just a matter of time, and pretty much everything we saw, that tendency may start coming back, right? Is what I would suggest. We are often told that have frequent small meals. So having frequent small meals shouldn't be done. Absolutely not. And I think, if I go back to the time, the previous generations and the way they used to live and how that has changed, right? Earlier, you get up at the crack of dawn, go get your round one of work done. And as the day progresses, come back, have a meal, take a rest in the afternoon, and then go back, do another round of work, have a meal, and spend some time at home, end the day. That's how life used to be. It used to be 2 or 3 meals, right? And growing up, I didn't see as much. Whereas now, I used to stress, there is a breakfast for my kid, and there's a mid-morning snack, and then there is a lunch, and there's the early evening snack, etc. Not right, not good, not helpful, right? So all the recent advice, and I don't know, I don't want to spout any conspiracy theories, but is it that we're coming up with snacks that we want people to get into a snacking habit? It didn't exist, right? And all of these have come only recently. So the right way is to eat fewer times, eat enough, give the body enough rest to not just be focusing on digestion all the time, right? When are we including Hyderabad for our programs? Hopefully very soon. Obviously, the goal is to first, do what we can in Bangalore, and then there's obviously the capital raise that needs to happen, and then intent is to very quickly, hopefully 2022, we should be in pretty much all the cities in India. Let's see, right? But please note that every other product you can consume irrespective of where you are, right? The diagnostic assessment, which is a Smart 360-degree assessment, can be done anywhere in India. The fitness part can be done anywhere in India. And if some of you are really motivated, we also do what's called as a Health Restore Lite, a version of our regular Health Restore program for people who are not based in Bangalore. Obviously, we don't provide the food, but we do a very engaged way of enabling you to eat the right things so that your health transforms. And there are a few people, we have clients in a Gurgaon, in a Chandigarh, in a Hyderabad, etc., who've signed up more because of referrals from existing clients and high level of motivation, saying, okay, till you launch, I don't want to wait, right? If you give me the right advice, I'll apply it, right? Whereas the rest of the components of our program continue for them. What are examples of, the other question similarly for Mumbai, the same thing, same answer applies to anywhere outside of Bangalore, unfortunately, at this time. Look forward to opening and coming everywhere. But that being said, I think 70-80% of what we do is available everywhere. I think even our e-commerce store, there are some products you can order from any part of India, not all products, right? But we look forward to coming to every city soon. Prebiotic and probiotic food that are available, I think there are lots that are available, right? Probiotic are, the difference being probiotic food are those that have the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that get populated in your gut. The prebiotic is actually food for that bacteria to ensure that they stay alive and healthy, and that way help with our health. And because I didn't go deeper into the gut microbiome, please note that around 1.5 to 2 kgs of our weight is the weight of bacteria, 90% of which reside in our large intestine. Super beneficial role they play in our health. New science, emerging science, and part of what we do is ensuring that we repopulate your gut microbiome and get your gut to work well. A lot of allergies are because of your gut not working well, etc. How do you test for cellular health? I think the focus is on inflammation, right? Various markers for inflammation to tell you if there's a state of chronic inflammation, and that's what you look at. And there is the standard what's called HSCRP. There is the ESR. There is maybe higher ferritin that does lead to inflammation, etc. There is also homocysteine. So these are all some of the tests that one needs to look at. Typically not looked at, part of our assessment. So something to think about, right? Do we conduct pranayama session? Yes, we do. Right, that's a part of our what we internally call it EYM, exercise, yoga, and meditation, and pranayama is a part of that. Right. What is the program name which gives comprehensive assessment, etc.? I don't know if I understood the question well, but I would say please look at what we call the the health 360-degree assessment on a website. That most likely is what you're looking at. Can you elaborate? How does it work? No, if you place the order, two things happen. One is somebody from the team will reach out to schedule time for blood sample to be picked up. And wherever you are in India, a technician will come up based on the time you said and collect the sample of your blood. In parallel, so there's a questionnaire on stress, there's a question on nutrition and fitness, etc. So we get all of those inputs. With both of these, it goes into our AI system. What we get is an assessment report that gets sent to you, and you have two conversations, one with a doctor, which gives you a medical perspective on all of this, one with a health scientist, which gives you a solution perspective on what you need to do. So that is how the health 360-degree works. Our diet delivery available in Gurgaon? Unfortunately not. Like I said, we can give the advice if you want. That's not part of our business model, but for a few people that want to fix their health, if it's really bad, we do that. If you need that help, reach out. Otherwise, give us a little time. We will be in Gurgaon, right? I think same thing about Hyderabad again. And is there a program for a general checkup? Sorry, I don't have 5.9. My friend, you need to worry, right? I don't know about the full program. I think I would suggest you do the health 360-degree assessment 5.9. And like I said, HbA1c is a lagging indicator. If it's already beyond 5.9, it means that the underlying insulin resistance, I can tell you, is significant. Your liver is fatty, etc. Right? When we talk of 2 to 3, does that include consumption of stuff? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What you can't, sorry, I didn't read the question fully. The question is, when we talk of 2 to 3 meals a day, does that include consumption of stuff like tea, milk, protein shakes, or can they be taken separately? So it does, because anything that starts up your metabolism is an insulin event. You can have a black tea, a black coffee, or green tea anytime, doesn't count because it doesn't start up your metabolism. But if there is milk or sugar in it, it does count. What is meant by being healthy? I'll park that for the end. I think that's a very, you can answer that at various levels, including at a philosophical level. Easy way to say is absence of disease, which is the classical way people talk about health. But in reality, your body working well, your body being able to fight out invaders, your body's metabolic processes working well is probably more of what being healthy is. With mushrooming of a lot of organic food chains, with some doubts attached, how do you recommend identifying good organic food? Where do you recommend sourcing them? Okay, and it is a big problem, and I think typically not known. In fact, we used to have sell the same supply chain we've set up. We've painstakingly set up the supply chain for fresh, organic, chemical-free supply chain directly from the farmers. We thought we could open it to our clients as well. But that being said, I think I don't want to endorse a brand over the other, but I think it is look at stores or brands that tell you where they source from, right? Because there are many people that put a label of organic, but it may not necessarily be organic. But let me also tell you that there are farmers putting in the effort in growing real chemical-free organic stuff, right? And that's who we've tied up with, and they are available. So if people, stores tell you about their procurement philosophy, where they're buying from, the more transparency you see there, I think the more confidence you can have that most likely it is going to be really organic and authentic. So there's another question. In addition to the Health 360, does one need to get a full body checkup done, which includes a treadmill test and other such tests? It would help, but I would say step one would be something like this, right, which goes into detail. If all looks well and if there's no symptomatic manifestations, you may not need to do it. Whereas if you see indicators where you're on the higher side and it's showing higher level of risk, then I would actually say, let's get a treadmill test done, or let's do a coronary artery calcium test done, etc., etc. Is feeling lazy all the time means we are diabetic? Not at all. I think I was lazier when I was not diabetic and much younger. So I don't believe there's a correlation between being lazy and diabetic. Yeah. There is a question around continuous glucose monitor. So I do have a perspective on this. There's a lot of chatter around what we call, CGMs. There's a lot of business models around, continuous glucose monitors, etc. that's out there. Let me tell you this. The simple way to think about it is, if by wearing a fitness band, will I become fit? If I use a thermometer, will my fever go away? Right? That's the role of a CGM. It does not solve any problem. It helps you with data that helps you understand the problem. Right? So when you wear a CGM, every few minutes, there's a measure of your blood glucose levels. So like I said, one problem is it does not measure insulin. So the problem is both insulin toxicity and glucose toxicity, with glucose toxicity being the lagging indicator, right? And the leading indicator is insulin toxicity. But every few minutes, it does take a reading of your blood glucose and records that it's transmitted. You have a way to interpret the data and see those trends. The few cases where I would say it is useful is, one, if your blood glucose levels swing quite a bit. I mean, you're an advanced diabetic. Two, if you're starting off on a lifestyle intervention strategy where you want to know how by doing X, my body responds, right? If that is the case, it would help to do it for a few weeks, because you are able to do those experiments and figure out how your body is responding. If you are early stage and if there's not as much volatility on your glucose, that doesn't mean you're healthy. It just means that the glucose volatility has not yet set in, whereas the insulin volatility may already be there. If that is the case, a CGM won't help, and because of which it may give you a false sense of a confidence that, hey, all is well. Which is why if you are a pre-diabetic or early stage diabetic, I would not recommend a CGM. Whereas if you want to manage it well, right, it's a tool. If you want to embark on a reversal path, it is a tool for some time to see which strategy is working for you, right? But that being said, it is expensive. For people that believe they don't want to spend that money, you don't need to do it, right? There are simpler ways for you to just use a glucometer to help monitor and get the data that you need, right? Can the Health 360 assessment be done from Hyderabad? Absolutely. You can just go ahead and sign up. There's a PIN code check, but we pretty much cover all of India. We've tied up with labs that will collect the sample, and then we kind of put it together. And so it can be done from anywhere in India. Okay, happy to take a few more questions for the guys that are hanging around. But that being said, let me take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking the time on a Saturday morning to join us. I hope you found the session useful and insightful. I do hope, like you prioritize your wealth, you prioritize your health. And please do look at various ways we could engage. Even if you are looking at advice to help you improve, happy to do that. I would say at a minimum, get the Health 360-degree assessment done, benchmark where you are, especially if you are, let's say, 35 plus, right? You would want to know, what the underlying state of health is. If you already have a problem, if you're in Bangalore, you can sign up and do the Kickstarter. If you're not in Bangalore, if you're really motivated, let us know. We can work on the Health Restore Lite for you. So there's still a couple of sessions. I'll get the thank yous, and thank you really for taking time. I hope you found it useful. And now I'll start taking the questions as long as there are questions. Can thyroid be reversed? Thyroid, two ways to look at it. There's what's called hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. I'm assuming people typically talk about hypothyroidism. The answer is yes. There are two key nutritional imbalances typically that lead to what's called hypothyroidism, which means your TSH ends up being higher, which means your thyroid gland is actually working lower, which is iodine and selenium. And I would say, please use iodized salt. and not any other kind of, salt that does not have iodine in it. That's one thing I would say. Second, you can look at retail.livoltlife.com or any other site. There's something called as a Brazil nut, right? Order the Brazil nut, have one a day. That's a rich source of selenium. If you do this, I've seen multiple people whose thyroid starts to function. Even if they're on thyroxine of various forms, they don't need that anymore, which is artificially giving you the hormone instead of your body producing it on your own. If your triglyceride and HDL levels are healthy but are high, is that indicator of cardiac risk? No. That's too little information for me to answer. But in general, I think what you need to be careful about is your ratio between triglycerides and your HDL. That matters most, because think of triglycerides as being garbage and think of HDL being garbage trucks. For the amount of garbage you're producing, you need enough garbage trucks to kind of cleanse it from your body. LDL, not all LDL is bad, right? So there is components of LDL which are harmful, which are the small dense type, and there are components of LDL largely which are not harmful. So if your triglyceride to HDL is high, then your LDL levels should be of concern, because then the size of your LDL is the small dense type. Whereas if your triglyceride by HDL ratio is low, most likely your LDL are the large fluffy type, and unlikely, but you need to correlate this with other things like the homocysteine, like the lipoprotein A, LPA, etc., to really be able to take a view on heart health. But that's a quick take on it. What are hidden symptoms that I might be progressing towards diabetes? Simple things, I would say visually, if you believe the middle of your body is becoming bigger compared to the rest of it, what I call is a waist to height ratio. That's a clear indicator that most likely there is fat deposition, visceral fat deposition happening around your inside of your abdominal organs, and that means that you're on a sign of getting insulin resistance, which means you're on a path to diabetes. That's a simple way to think about it. For a senior citizen with BP and thyroid, are there any health restore solutions? No, the assessment is not a solution. Let me also be clear. The assessment is only a way to figure out where you are, or if you already have a problem, how bad is the problem? Bad is the underlying root cause, right? It'll just give us understanding how your state of health is and where it's headed. It's not a solution, right? We do have the what we call the Health Restore Kickstarter, or the diabetes reversal Kickstarter. These are programs, if you're in Bangalore, that you can get started. It does work for everybody, including senior citizens. But one caveat, given that we want to have food, because the primary 70% I said is food, which drives improvement, is something that the way we've curated it, a senior citizen who's not traveled may not necessarily like it, because 1/3 of what we send is South Indian in Bangalore, 1/3 is rest of India, 1/3 is international, and some people may not be comfortable to that kind of variety of food. And secondly, in general, I've seen the motivation of senior citizens to making lifestyle changes is lower, because they feel, hey, my journey is kind of done, I don't need to change now. But that being said, if anybody is enthusiastic and wants to improve their condition, it will work for them, irrespective of whether they are in their middle age or a senior citizen. Absolutely. Right. The question is, my mother is diabetic with a 7.9 HbA1c, and there are some blockages as well. You start making the right choices, the HbA1c will go down, more blockages won't happen, and hopefully over time the existing blockages also will reduce. The answer is yes. Super. So I think if anybody else, okay. There's a quick couple of questions coming in. Because of work from home, I sit for a long time. Can it have an impact on fat deposits and diabetes? Yes, it can, for a variety of reasons. Try to get in as much activity as you possibly can. See if you can get that 45-minute walk in. All of those are important, but also please fix your nutrition, because don't take your eyeball off that. That is, I would say, 5x more important than every other vector available to us. Please do walk, please do exercise. I know it has not been an easy time for people being cooped up at home, but obviously looking at our exercise and yoga classes, it's online, you can do it from home. That's something for you to think about. Okay, I said during my presentation that I'll be focusing more on not on the diabetes part, on the metabolic balance part, right? And that is true for every disease, not just for diabetes. So that I'll be focusing on that. Inflammation and immunity are the other two parts, which is cellular health and your body's immunity. There are, you can look at, I think the Livolt Life YouTube channel, there's a lot of webinars I've done, maybe I've covered it there. But in reality, what you can control is this, the other you can measure, but not directly control, right? So it is deep technical, obviously happy to discuss and double down and triple down in terms of on the immunity bit or on the, inflammation bit. But I've covered, irrespective of all of this, what you need to do. The solution applies to all of them as well. Right? It's just the underlying science of that I've not covered. But on the Livolt Life website, we should have blogs. There are videos that we put out. We should have covered some of these there. All right. Thank you, everyone. It was great having you. I hope you found it useful. There's a question on whether we can share the slides. I think more than the slides, we'll be putting up this video, and I think that should just make it easy for you to refer and look at the conversation, right? And remind yourself of some of the things, concepts that we spoke about. So thanks, everyone. I hope each of you focuses on your health and ensures that you do the right thing to protect and grow your health in addition to your wealth. And obviously on the health side, we can help. And wish you all a very happy festive season and end of the year. And please do take adequate care. And thank you, Deepak and Capital Mind.